On tonight's Gwinnett Prep Rally, it's the final week of the regular season as teams prepare to go dancing into the state playoffs. In Region 8, the Parkview Panthers are one win away from clinching their first region title since 2004, but a road trip to South Gwinnett would prove to be no easy task. In Region 7, Collins Hill and Mill Creek battled to the final whistle with the number 3 seed on the line, while North Gwinnett had to overcome a first-half deficit at Peachtree Ridge to claim their 9th victory of the season. In other pigskin action, GAC went on the road to Lovett to decide their Region 6 AA champion, while Buford sent a message to the Region 7 AAA title holders. Plus, we sit down with North Gwinnett's Mr. Do-Everything Donnie Miles on this hard-hitting edition of GPR, and it starts right now.
For 20 years, there's only been one home for high school sports, Gwinnett Prep Rally.
Hello and welcome to Gwinnett Prep Rally, now in our 20th year of covering high school athletics in Gwinnett County. And you can see the show right here on GCPS-TV for all the football, basketball, soccer, and baseball action from Class 6A all the way down to Single A. I'm Todd Klein alongside Will Hammock from the Gwinnett Daily Post. And Will, the cross-country state championships took place this past weekend, and it was a very successful event for a bunch of Gwinnett athletes.
Yeah, it kind of went as expected. A very dominant effort out of Gwinnett. This cross country may be Gwinnett's best sport. Just a great effort. You got to congratulate the Mill Creek boys. They won their first championship. Josh Brickell from Peachtree Ridge won the individual title in 5A. Just a great job, and I think Mill Creek deserves a lot of credit. Andy Christie and those guys for winning. Also, Brookwood and Chris Carter, the girls, won their first state championship. So a great win for Brookwood. Quandra Shanks and Peyton Wilson leading the way over there. And can't forget about the Wesleyan girls down in AA. They won a tight competition with Caroline Reed leading the way and Ellie Braddock right behind her winning that championship. So congratulations to all those state championship teams.
Well, our special thanks to the Gwinnett Daily Post for providing those great photos. Well, let's get on to the football highlights, and both Mill Creek and Collins Hill have already locked up a spot in the state playoffs, but the winner of this past Friday night's game would clinch the number 3 seed, while the loser would face a first-round playoff matchup with the Region 6 champions. GPR's Nathan Shutter has more.
Collins Hill looking to close out the regular season with a win over Mill Creek. Both offenses would struggle in the first half until Ryan England runs it in from 5 yards out for the touchdown. Two-point attempt was no good. Eagles up 6-0 at the break. Second half, Mill Creek trying to get something going. The give is to Jacorey Lewis. He spins away from the would-be tacklers and breaks free into the secondary. Touchdown Hawks, and they take a 7-6 lead. Collins Hill looking for a quick answer. Tyler Herman back to pass, and he's going deep downfield to Grant McDonald, and he makes the catch inside the 5-yard line. The Eagles will take advantage. Herman swings a pass out to Julian Williams in the flat, and he runs it in for 6. The two-point conversion was good. Collins Hill up 14-7. Mill Creek offense going back to work. Daniel David fakes the handoff and pitches it to the Fazia Felton. He gets to the outside. He picks up a nice block from Kyle Nichols, and Felton takes it all the way down inside the 30-yard line. Mill Creek would have to settle for a field goal attempt, and Bryson King steps up and boots it through the uprights to cut the lead to 14-10. Hawks back on offense with under 3 minutes to play in the game. Daniel David going deep downfield, and he finds Michael Cheeks in stride, but the turf monster will take him down inside the 5-yard line, short of the goal line. It wouldn't matter though, as Jacorey Lewis punches it in from a couple yards out, but Mill Creek back on top 17-14. 1 second left in the game. Collins Hill with the chance to tie it with a 31-yard field goal attempt, but the kick is blocked by Mill Creek as the Hawks rally in the second half for a 17-14 win over Collins Hill.
Well, Will, nice win there for Mill Creek, and maybe a program coming of age. Getting a tight ball game like this is about finding ways to win, and it seems like Mill Creek is kind of maturing in that aspect. Yeah,
definitely so. I mean, that was what Coach Jarvis was really happy about. I mean, as a young program, you kind of the historical programs like a Brookwood or a Parkview, they kind of find a way to win these games, and that's what Mill Creek did in this one. They made the plays down the stretch, had a huge drive there late to take the lead, and really took control there with a huge block of a kick there at the end.
Yeah, a tough one to lose for Collins Hill, especially when you have that chance at the game-time field goal to bounce back. You got the playoffs this week. How do you expect Collins Hill to bounce back from this defeat?
I still think there's a lot of potential for Collins Hill. I mean, there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Obviously, they're missing their starting quarterback, Brett Sheehan, in this one, but Tyler Herman did a great job. I think really you got to look back this week and work on special teams if you're Collins Hill. You got one of the better kickers in the state, and Mitchell Blanchard, and really just missed a short field goal there at the end, and then had a jailbreak there on that last kick to get it blocked. So really got to shore up those special teams if you want to win in the postseason.
Well, back to the highlights, and the Parkview Panthers had a chance to capture their first region title since 2004 with a win over South Gwinnett. But the Comets had plenty to play for as well, with the number 2 seed from Region 8 still up for grabs. GPR's Jeff Batten has all the action from Snellville.
South Gwinnett looking to finish the regular season with a big win over Parkview. Comets on the offensive. Jordan Ramey going downfield with a pass picked off by Shaq Vereen, and he's heading the other way. He's going to get tripped up inside the 15, and the drive will stall after a missed field goal. Second quarter, Panthers threatening once again. The give is to Justice Rosser. Breaks free up the middle, 14 yards, touchdown, 7-0 Big Orange. South Gwinnett trying to answer before halftime. Ramey back to pass, gonna go for it all. Tyrone Atchison makes the grab in the end zone, and we're tied up at 7 after 24 minutes of play. Fourth quarter now, South inside the red zone. Ramey flings it out to Bernard Morrison in the flat, sidesteps the defender. He goes in for the touchdown. PAT no good. Comets up 13-7. Now under 5 minutes left. Parkview knocking on the door. Rosser takes the handoff, gets outside all the way for the score. Panthers now up 14-13. Just over a minute to play. South facing a crucial 3rd and 1. Josh Boyd with the handoff breaks a big run before being dragged down around the 30. Later in the drive, South with a chance to win it on a 31-yard field goal attempt, and Roberto Lindsay splits the uprights. South Gwinnett clinches a home playoff game with a 16-14 victory over Parkview.
Well, what a comeback for South Gwinnett, not just in this game, but really in this season. Early in this season, maybe some people were counting the Comets out, but here they are at the end of the year, the number 2 seed in the region and a home playoff game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were wondering what South had because the back schedule, part of their schedule was so loaded with top teams. I mean, you really didn't know how they were going to fare against the top teams in the region. And South's really shown us these last couple of weeks. They've beaten the top teams in the region, and they've earned their way to that number 2 seed.
And really a tough loss for Parkview. They started off the region season with that big upset of Grayson. Then they lost to Central Gwinnett to put them in this bad situation against South. But with Chris Carson out, it seemed like a very game effort for the Panthers. Still a lot to play for in the playoffs.
Yeah, they played tough, and I think they're still going to be a force in the playoffs because of that defense. I think they were going to play stout defense against whoever they play. And against Walton in the first round, I think they're going to hold Walton in check. It's just going to be a matter if Parkview can produce enough offense to win the game.
Well, more highlights now, and while North Gwinnett had already sealed up the number 2 seed in Region 7, the Bulldogs didn't want to lose momentum, heading into the state playoffs as they went on the road to face upset-minded Peachtree Ridge in the regular season finale. Jeff Batten has more.
Peachtree Ridge trying to pull the upset over North. Lions up 17-0 in the second, but the Bulldogs are on the move. Hayden Spire will connect with Caleb Scott for a 27-yard gain. The Spire-Scott combo once again for a 12-yard touchdown to cut the Lions' lead to 17-7. Then a little trickery from North. Spire completes the pass to Scott, but pitches it to Nick Andruski for an additional 25 yards on the play, and that would set up Michael D'Angola for the 42-yard field goal as North comes from behind for a 24-20 win over Peachtree Ridge.
Well, this one looked good for Peachtree Ridge early on. Will North Gwinnett comes back like gangbusters and pulls this one off in the end.
Yeah, that was the score that kind of shocked people all night when they saw it. Peachtree Ridge beat North. I don't think a lot of people expected that to happen, but really a nice effort out of Peachtree Ridge to close the season. They fought hard, kind of show what kind of potential this team has. There's a lot of talent. They just couldn't quite put it together this season, and give North credit. They were up against the wall there at the end, and they made the plays they had to win the ballgame.
Well, back to the highlights as we check in on a pair of teams in AA and AAA. The GAC Spartans had a chance to capture the Region 6 AA title this past Friday night, while the Buford Wolves looked to send a message to the de facto Region 7 AAA champs. Nathan Shutter has the call.
GAC with a chance to clinch a region title on the road at Lovett. The Spartans got off to a good start. Kyle Scales takes the handoff and burst into the secondary. No one is going to catch him. Touchdown GAC, and they lead 7-0. Lovett would have a quick answer. Grant Haley on the carry, and he won't be denied on the score to knot the game at 7. GAC will go right back to work, and it's Kyle Scales showing off the fancy moves all the way for his second touchdown of the game, but it wouldn't be enough as Lovett scratches out a 31-30 win over GAC. We head over to Buford where the Wolves faced off against North Hall, the top team in the region. Buford will come out firing as Taylor Mitchell finds Thomas Wilson wide open. He makes the grab and sprints to the end zone for a Wolves touchdown and a 7-0 lead. Then more from the passing game. Mitchell, play action, and he completes the pass to Cameron Poole for a big gain inside North Hall territory. And Xavier Hoaxie runs it in for 6 as Buford cruises past North Hall by a final of 45-16.
Well, Will, the record books will say that North Hall was the region champs. I think this score suggests that people that know for real think that this Buford team should have been the region champs. The question is, how do you think Buford will fare in the playoffs where they have a chance to really stake their claim?
Yeah, I think Coach Simpson said it after the game that Buford was going to be a tough out in the playoffs, and I think that's going to be the case. This is a very good team, certainly a lot better than a #2 seed. They dominated every team in the region, and that includes the North Hall team that hadn't lost until this game in the region. So give credit to the Wolves. They really put it together and played one of their better ball games against North Hall.
Well, you talk about Buford being a tough out. I wonder how tough out you think GAC will be in the playoffs. Had a chance at this region championship, and it was some little things that kind of slipped through their hands, almost literally, this region title.
Yeah, definitely. And it really came down to that extra point. You hate to lose a game that way, but I think GAC's got a lot to play for, and they're going to be a very tough ball game in the playoffs. I think every team from this region is going to be tough. It's a loaded region. I know it was small, so you're almost guaranteed to make in the playoffs, but once you get into the playoffs, all 4 of the teams from that region are going to be very difficult to beat, and I think GAC falls into that category.
Well, since their early season loss to Norcross, North Gwinnett has flown under the radar for much of the year. But as the first round of the state playoffs begin this Friday night, we can expect a lot of noise from the Bulldogs and senior standout Donnie Miles.
Tonight's team leader is presented by Breda Pest Management.
He's got the ability to make plays on defense. We know he can make plays on offense.
Donnie Miles, touchdown.
You know, he's one of those rare guys that can line up on either side of the ball as well as special teams and just make some things happen.
North Gwinnett's Donnie Miles has made an impact on both sides of the ball since stepping onto the varsity field 4 years ago as a freshman.
I think it's really exciting, especially for my coaches to believe in me that much to allow me to do, offense and defense and special teams. I think that's a great honor, and I just got to give God the thanks for giving me the ability to do that, and the rest of my teammates for helping me and pushing me to do that.
While playing both sides of the ball can take its toll physically, the experience and knowledge gained can pay dividends in the long run.
I think it helps me a lot, especially playing both sides of the ball, to understand football, the game of football more, and just knowing the schemes of the teams better. Everybody has something different to them. I'm starting to understand that now with this good coach staff and just watching film and everything. It helps me really on Friday nights to know what to expect.
The physical and cerebral gifts that Donnie Miles possesses as a football player made him a sought-out recruit for Division I college football programs, and in the end, it was North Carolina that received his verbal pledge.
My dad taught me about, just going to a place to have everything that fits for you. At first, I didn't even want to go up there and take the visit, and I took the visit up there, and I love the campus. I love the coaches, everything about it. The school education is in the top in the country. And once I got to know the coach staff better and see the campus, I just fell in love with it.
The jump from high school to college football is not an easy task, but Donnie Miles has the tools and experience to make an impact early on.
The thing I think he's going to bring that's going to help transition him to that level is he's physical. He's very physical, and he's really worked hard in the weight room, so he's got strength. I think that's really going to help him. I think his desire to be great, his desire to make plays. Donnie was just, he's born to be a football player. He just loves the game.
Well, Donnie obviously has talents on both sides of the ball. How do you think those will be best utilized at the University of North Carolina?
Yeah, he's definitely a good running back, and he's had a lot of good highlights over the last 3 years for North Gwinnett at running back. I really see him as a defensive back at the next level. You saw Coach Spire saying how physical he is. I think a lot of those traits are going to help him at the college level, but he's going to be a great cover corner too. I think he's a guy that can help immediately for the Tar Heels.
Time now for Will's World. We put 60 seconds on the clock. We get into the mind of our very own Will Hammock, and it's brought to you by Nexstar Communications.
Yeah, he made big news when he committed over the summer, even bigger news now that he's decommitted from Clemson. Robert Nkemdiche from Grayson, just a guy that's an exceptional prospect, #1 national recruit, consensus guy. He's kind of reopened his commitment. He's looking at Ole Miss, looking at some other schools. I think he's going to take his time now, maybe wait till signing day, see how it shakes out, and make sure that's the right place for him to go to Clemson. And the Wesleyan girls basketball team's on a pretty incredible run. They can match Hart County's state record for state championships in a row, and I think they got a good chance of doing it. They're loaded. They're deep as always. They lost some talented kids, but they just year in and year out, they get after it on the defensive end. They're going to put pressure on you. They're going to find ways to score, and I think that just because they play so hard, it's going to give them a chance to win yet another state championship, even as they move up a classification. And 3 playoff teams from last year didn't quite make the return. Decula's one of those. Also Archer and Peachtree Ridge. I think teams at the beginning of the year that maybe a lot of folks thought were going to be playoff teams this year for whatever reason. They had some stumbles. It was a very rough season for Decula. Archer maybe really underachieved, and also the same with Peachtree Ridge. I mean, there's a lot of talent over there for them not to be a playoff team, but that was a very tough region that the Lions play in.
I want to go back, Will, and talk to you a little bit about Kim Dietschy. Like you said, #1 recruit in the country. A big news when he said he was going to Clemson, maybe even bigger news that he's not. In your gut, if you had to pick a team that he would go to right now, where do you think that Kim Dietschy is headed?
I think it's a toss-up between Ole Miss and Clemson. I mean, you got the family ties pulling him to Ole Miss, and I think really in his heart probably thinks Clemson was the best place for him personally. It's going to come down to that, talking it over with his family. I mean, if Clemson's the place he wants to go, I think that's where he should go, and I think that's probably in the end where he'll end up.
Time now to focus on standout performances. So let's move on to this week's Building Blocks, presented by Britt's Home Furnishing. And first up is Jacorey Lewis. And Will, I know you've been big on Jacorey Lewis all year. He showed up big again against Collins Hill.
Yeah, he reeled off a big 49-yard touchdown run that was kind of key in Mill Creek's comeback in that game. Scored a couple touchdowns. Scored the big one to help him win. But he's a guy that's just an exceptional football player. Runs the ball hard. I think that's what. He's a very physical runner. He's not the biggest kid in the world, but he runs so hard he'll knock some kids down, and a very impressive guy.
We talk a lot about the South offense, but maybe the biggest difference in South this year is Reggie Carter is on this defense, and he is having games like this monster performance he had against Parkview.
Yeah, he's very tough to block. We saw him a couple weeks ago in the highlights against Brookwood, had a couple of big sacks, had another sack in this one, and 19 tackles. He was all over the field. He's getting closer and closer to being 100% health-wise. I know he's battling back from a knee injury. He's a big impact player.
And then you talked about a guy stepping up. He didn't get a win, but Tyler Herman played a nice game against the Mill Creek Hawks.
Yeah, he threw an interception on his first pass of the game, and he was pretty flawless after that. 26 of 38, 225 yards and a touchdown. Definitely did enough to get Collins Hill a victory in this game. Threw a great ball and just came a little bit short, but it's not Tyler's fault. I thought he played a great football game, and he showed what the future is going to be at quarterback for Collins Hill.
Well, Will, all those were great performances. Who else played well last week that we should mention?
Well, 2 guys shined again at Central Gwinnett. E-Man Westmoreland, the county's all-time leading passer, and Justin Brownlee, an underrated receiver for Central Gwinnett, had another 200-yard receiving game. He broke the Gwinnett County records for receiving yards and catches in a season. So just a huge season for Justin. I look forward to seeing where he's going to go at the college level.
Well, for the past 20 years, Gwinnett Prep Rally has been the county's #1 place for high school sports. And every week we will be sitting down with show creator Jeff Batten to take a look back at the show's great history.
Gwinnett County has never had its shortage of great athletes, and we've had the opportunity to cover a ton of them. Fran Coeur, Brian McCann, and we've got a great piece of video of Brian McCann throwing out Jeff Rancour on a steal at second base when Brian was at Duluth and Jeff was at Parkview. Maya Moore, obviously we covered her extensively throughout all this time. Darius Walker was supposed to be the great thing at Notre Dame. It kind of was, but it didn't completely work out for Darius. We've had so many great players. David Green come through. Jeff Backus was one of our very first athletes that we covered. We did profiles on the Stinchcomb brothers early on, but it was really Davey Pollock that kind of invigorated me. This is 97, 98, 99, and he was still a high school player at Shiloh. And this is right when the internet was taking off and everybody was figuring out, what's this email, what's this internet thing? And we got an email and we said, okay, if you want to email your comments to the show, write into Gwinnett Prep Rally at AOL.com. That was our first email. And lo and behold, the first email I ever got from a viewer was from Davey Pollock as a 10th grader. Here's Davey Pollock. People kind of heard of it, but not really. Sort of a chubby fullback. Nobody had any idea that he was going to be what he became. And he writes back and says, we love you guys, and we love Todd Klein, and we always get together as a team and watch Todd and watch all these guys on Gwinnett Prep Rally. And it was just neat to have kind of a pen pal relationship with Davey over the time that he was at Shiloh. And nobody had any idea that he'd turn out to be one of the 2 or 3 greatest defensive players that the University of Georgia ever turned out. And it's still kind of funny to run into Davey Pollock, and he still remembers us, and Jeff Rancour and all those guys. And just to be 20 years old and know that we've been able to cover dozens of professional athletes and tremendous college athletes, there's a lot of gratification in that for sure.
Well, it's funny, Will. You know, there was a time where Davey Pollock actually would ask me if he could be on the show. Wanted to make sure that I talked about him on the show. Now it's funny, he's on ESPN's Game Day and doesn't return any of my calls.
That's
so
right,
I don't know how that works, but you talk about these great athletes. We've both been very fortunate to cover a lot of these great athletes. I don't know who sticks out in your mind, but when it comes to big-time players, and if you're just talking about football, it's football season now, it's hard to pass over what Frank Gore did. It seemed like every time there was a big play to be made, this guy made it on the football field.
Yeah, as far as accomplished high school athletes, he was right up there at the top in baseball and football. I mean, to win baseball and football state titles your last 2 seasons of high school, that was a pretty great accomplishment. Not just win them, but kind of be the go-to player and the hero for all those teams that won state. Just it seems like in both those sports, he was clutch and just probably the most accomplished prep athlete that I've ever been around.
Time now for Will to channel his inner Swami and give us his predictions on some key matchups on the gridiron this week. It's brought to you by Tommy Lee Carpets. We call it Beat the Post. We'll give you a chance to do exactly that. Start off with Will Wheeler at Grayson as Grayson gets ready to defend its title.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of if Wheeler will win. It's if Wheeler will score against this Grayson defense. I like the Rams to win pretty handily.
Brookwood has to go on the road. They're at Lassiter.
Yeah, I think you're going to need a few extra stat sheets for this one. There's going to be a lot of points scored, and I think probably Lassiter's just got too much offense for that Bronco defense.
You said you were big on Parkview's defense. They go on the road at Walton, but Walton is nursing some injuries of their own.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Parkview's going to have a hard time scoring without Chris Carson in the lineup. I think it's going to be a close game, but I like Walton to pull it out.
South Gwinnett got a home game because of that win over Parkview. They'll be hosting Milton. Do they get it done against the visiting Milton team?
Yeah, I think South's really on a roll right now. I think they've got what it takes to beat Milton in this one.
And Chattahoochee comes over to Norcross. Does Norcross stay unbeaten?
Yeah, Norcross has kind of been gearing up for this game. They're healthy. They're playing well. I like the Blue Devils to win pretty big.
We talked about North Gwinnett flying under the radar. They play Johns Creek. Do they get things going in the playoffs?
Yeah, North Gwinnett's kind of built for these kind of big games, and Johns Creek still kind of a young program that's kind of getting used to this stage. So I like the Bulldogs and their experience.
And it was kind of like a little warm-up for the playoffs, playing Collins Hill. Now Mill Creek's in the playoffs for real. They're playing at Alpharetta.
Yeah, I think Alpharetta's got a lot of skill people. I think the mismatch is going to be on the offensive and defensive lines. I think Mill Creek's a lot more physical, and I think the Hawks are going to use that to get a victory.
Well, in past years, Will, we've seen Gwinnett #4 seeds go on the road and beat a #1 seed. Can Collins Hill be a team that duplicates that?
I think Collins Hill's got that kind of potential. I like what they can do. I think they got the offense that can do it, and the defense has certainly picked it up in recent weeks. I like the Eagles to pull off the upset.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's GPR. Be sure to join us next week for highlights from the first round of the football state playoffs. And you can see Gwinnett Prep Rally every Tuesday through Friday right here on GCPS-TV. And you can go to GwinnettPrepRally.com for all the scheduling details. For Will Hammock and all of us here at GPR, I'm Todd Klein. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you under the lights.
Grab some wood there, bub.